March 4th. Can you believe it? I'm saying March in 2025. I can't believe we're already in March. We're already getting up to the end of the first quarter of 2025. I'm hoping that your business is on its way upward in momentum in this first quarter of 2025. Whether you are or you're not, I'm happy that you're here because we can help you understand a little bit more about other areas of business, marketing especially, how to communicate with your clients, how to get offers out there, but not in that sleazy way, not in the marketing way. Like I see this stuff every single day. And Lauren and I, hi, Lauren, by the way,
Hey,
we were just having a massive discussion, a heated discussion in a good way before we went live. And we were almost late to go live because of that conversation. And I just want to bring it to everybody else because it's so important that we talk about this. And it was about the coaching industry. And it's part of what you and I do. And I don't know. I'm just springing this on you. So there's no script for this, as you know, that what we do. So, let's just hash this out if you want to or not want to. And I think that it's going to really help people understand what we're talking about here when it comes to offering things without being pushy and raising the value of what you do. So, does that spark any of what we talked about bringing it into this live session?
yes, a lot.
Let's
And
go for it.
I'll tell you the big things that come to mind, and then you can pick where you want to start. So the
Yeah.
one is, um, not being confident selling, and my perspective of that is because you're not walking the talk,
Ah,
and
okay.
not that any of us have to be perfect,
Okay.
but how do you have conviction and push people when you know yourself that you're not putting your full effort into it? And again, it doesn't have to, none of us are perfect, but do you have a coach? No. Then how do you sell coaching? Do you know what I
Exactly.
mean? And
Exactly.
so it's a very hot, I'm very fired up about this today. But I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down. Like that's the issue. And so anyhow, I don't know. So then, you know, again, when you talk about being pushy, it's what's your definition of that? Because as a coach, you are pushy. You challenge clients, whether you want to call it pushy or not. But
Yeah.
but there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
There's different ways to push clients, and there's different ways to push for someone to enroll. But I don't know where I'm going with this.
Okay,
I
so let me
just
let me jump in. Let me jump in, and maybe this will
yes,
spark something for you because we had a big discussion today on Academy. Tuesdays are my private mastermind academy, and this is a great timing because we had a big discussion about, um, about knowing who your dream client is and carving off the edges. Because I'm constantly doing that. I'm always shaving off the edges of who my dream client is, and you just said something that I really it just recognized how important it is about we'll just use the words pushing clients or challenging them. I love challenging people. Love it. That's just how I coach. And sometimes it can come off as I think it's aggressive. Other people have said, "No, you're more assertive. It's not aggressive, it's more assertive." And I go, "Okay, I like that word better." And that's what I am, right? So I don't hold anything back. And I don't want to have to think about how I coach. And this comes down to dream clients. It comes down to who are you actually bringing into your world. So I don't necessarily have to learn how to coach in terms of my clients because I just show up the way I am. And this has everything to do with how I market in the world as well. I show up the way I am and say it how it is. And you either like me or you don't. And if you don't like me in the marketing world, you're probably not going to be in my world. And I don't need to bring you on a call to do any sort of selling whatsoever. I just told you about a client that showed up last week, and this week they paid $5,000 to come into a VIP. Did they go through a funnel? No. Did they go through any pushing thing? No. It was just like I saw you here, watch a lot of your stuff, got on one little call. I challenged them and said that this is not something that I really do because they were willing to pay me anything in order to work with me. But I'm like, this is not what I do. So standing your ground. I mean, I'm throwing a lot at you to like pick and choose where you want to talk about. But it was, this is not what I do. I'm specific on these things. This is what I stand for. This is what I'm all about. And this is where I can help you. And that conversation turned into one where like, I want to model what you're doing. And I love that you've really opened my eyes. It was not a conversation where I was trying to convince them to do something that they didn't want to do. It was more about me knowing exactly where my superpower lies and saying, this is my niche and I'm sticking right here. This is what I can help you with. And that's where, like you said at the beginning of this, wow, this is a long winded answer. Maybe it's because of the cappuccino my wife just got me. um, because of the confidence that I have. I know where I can stand up and I do it every day. I walk the talk. I've been told that a billion times. And so I'm like, this is how I can help you. This is not what I do. So okay, I'll shut up there and let you interject while I finish off more of this espresso.
Yeah, so yeah, and here's the thing. It is so important to find your ideal client. And sometimes, again, it, and for me, sometimes it's trial and error, like because
Yeah,
I think this is what I love and this is who I want to work with, and then I do it and I realize it's not. So sometimes, and that's what's happened to me recently. And I'm going, that's fine. I served, I delivered, but I'm not doing it again. So
right.
they're gone. And I would have said they were my ideal client because that's what I thought I I wanted. But here's
Right.
more to the point. What I wanted to say is that even with your ideal client, you have to have boundaries, right?
100%.
And I think, but you got to know what your boundaries are. So I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but yes, you need your ideal client, and you have to have boundaries, and you have to know what you can and can't do. Um, but unfortunately, most coaches don't.
No, most coaches are just like, does the credit card go through? Right. And that's it. And I think that I mean, this is not what the topic we were going to talk about, but we'll get to it maybe. But this is the way this show goes, by the way. If you're watching us for the first time, let us know by hashtag live or hashtag replay. I'm looking down at my iPad. I'm not ignoring anybody here. I'm just got my iPad here in case I see something coming from the Facebook group. Um, but you said something very important that I really want to emphasize, and that is about having the skill, not only the skill, but the experience to guide people. If I'm a huge believer of this, and I know that there's people who disagree with it. They say, well, you can still coach and teach people with something that you know, but you really haven't done it. I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I'm really not. I can talk a lot about, scaling a business to $1 million, and I haven't done it yet. I could talk about it, but I really don't know because I haven't been on the playing field. I'm getting there. I'm on the playing field toward it, but I haven't done it yet. Ask me how to get to 1 million or to $100,000 and build a small little team and all that stuff. I could talk all through the next 3 and 5 years straight and give you all kinds of different ways of what you need to avoid and all that thing, right? So I believe that experience is a major piece of what you need to be as a coach, and not only experience, but as you said, you're also um you're also you also have a coach so you can empathize with people because you're still going through the growth. If you're going through the growth with a coach and then you feel as though there's some kind of tension or whatever you want between you and your client, you can empathize with them because you're doing the same thing. But once you stop growing, once you stop and say, well, I got my certificate and that's really it, I'm not going to do anything more or whatever, I believe you lose touch. What do you think? I lost you. I don't know if you muted
Sorry,
or did I? Oh,
I muted myself. Sorry.
okay.
Uh, Something just clicked for me as we were talking about ideal client. And So tell me, what's your definition of ideal client? Like, what would,
Okay.
just high level, like, because I want to share something that just clicked for me related to this, but I think it's a different angle at it, which is why I'm excited. So I want to hear first, like, when you go first.
Okay, I love talking about this because again, this came up today in our conversations. And whenever I talk about dream clients, the first thing is many people think it's just another word for ideal client, and it's not. They're completely different things. An ideal client is basically someone who fits a model. It fits a, like this is a person between 20 and 35. It's a lot of demographic stuff, and here's the program it works for, blah blah blah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. But a dream client on the other side of it has the ideal client stuff, the demographics and whatever. But you start out with your life first. You start out with, this is the person that I want to spend the next 25 years with, regardless if they're paying me. This is the person. And basically, you could look at it this way, Lauren, and everybody else listening. A dream client is like a best friend, period. Think about your best friend right now, and what do you love about that best friend? Now imagine if that best friend was paying you. Okay. So that best friend, you don't care. They'll call you at night, you cry, you laugh together, all that kind of stuff. People think it's crazy, but one of my clients today has gone through this process and realized that the dream client they first picked, which is not wrong, by the way, because this is the process, was here's who I could work with. But now I'm seeing that they're draining my batteries a little bit. And I said, yes, because that's what's happening is most people, when they look at dream clients, are looking at ideal clients, not dream, because your brain gets in the way. When I say to you, Lauren, go out and find people who are like your best friend and get them to pay you, your brain will go, there's nobody like that. What are you talking about? But there is. And if you get a dream client who fits your life first, that you want to hang out with and go to the movies and go on cruises and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, you got this problem that I fix like every day. It's so easy for me. And then they turn into a client, right? That's what a dream client is. You follow? So it's always about the person first. So I'm always excited about the people that I work with, and I'm always looking at their characteristics and not their demographics. I don't care where you come from, what religion you like. I don't care any of that. I don't care politics. Like, you know what? So as long as you and I can get along and I can be myself, just like best friends, then you're a dream client for me. And you're willing and able to pay and all that kind of stuff. The money comes in later. That's important. But it's more about designing the perfect person. And everybody thinks it's crazy. It's like there's no perfect person. There is a perfect person for you, and it's called a dream client.
So first of all, that is such a brilliant distinction. I've never heard that. I've never
Thank
heard
you.
anyone. And oh my, it's like, and it's a huge distinction.
Yeah.
But everyone that I know of, even the biggest names,
Hmm.
they're all talking about ideal client.
Hmm.
They're all. But you know what just happened while we were, like, after the day I had, and my emotions are like raging, just gonna be honest. I I couldn't put my finger on, well, I did I did put my finger on what it was and why I got so upset, angry, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, and I had the logical reasons,
Thanks,
but
MD.
the emotional reason just clicked for me. And I've actually, as I said, I don't know when last we spoke, but I've made a big pivot in the last couple, anyhow. Um, and I realized that who I'm working with now have the same drive, intensity, discipline, like just if they're all in. Whereas who I've been working with, and
Right.
I'm that person, I'm figured you do it or you don't. You do it properly or you're not. Right? There's no and again, in some places in my life it doesn't suit me. I'm a very black and white person. I've always been like that. And
Yes.
it's a lot, guarantee. honestly, in some context, it doesn't. But as we were sitting here, it clicked for me why I'm so excited about who I'm working with next. And I couldn't articulate it. I could articulate it from a logical perspective, but the emotional perspective just dropped in right now. And
Right.
now I'm freaking, oh, like now I'm even more on fire than I was. And what dropped in is these are my people because they've got the integrity, they've got the discipline, they've got the work ethic that I have. And I realized I can't work with people who don't have that. And I'm far from perfect. And
Right.
I make lots of mistakes. But there's things that's my personality, that's who I am. And if you can't take my intensity because I'm not your person and I am not dialing this down. And so
Love it.
I've been at ideal clients and I've had to dial down. And I realize now how, not a lot, but I have, and how frustrating it is. And now who
Yes.
I'm working with, there's no dialing. I'm going to freaking dial it up. And that's exciting for me. But this distinction that you made, like, if people haven't heard it before, then you need to let it sink in. Because, oh my, it's like a game changer. I'm
Yeah.
like,
It's
because how I've never heard this before. How has no one ever, like literally in 10 years that I've been in this, working with you know who, no one has said that.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I realized this a few years ago of like what truly is, because I used to be the ideal avatar guy. Like I loved the avatar thing. I actually introduced it to quite a few industries, right? And it's like, this is amazing. But I would always get challenged on one thing was, well, what if the my avatar doesn't fit this like box, right? And I'm like, no, 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 that's not how it goes. And then I realized, and this, I give this all to my dad because my dad, when I was, I've always been in business. I grew up with my dad, and watching him grow the business, he had friends who were customers and customers who were friends. You know what I mean? So they would be over our house for pool parties and birthdays and Christmas, and and it wasn't a business meeting. It was they were friends. And then at the office they'd be in the client, and it started to click for me. Like, wait a minute, there can be, you can have friends as clients, and there's the other camp. There's people out there who will think that I'm absolutely insane. Like, okay, well then that's fine, but I don't want to work with people who I don't love as a person first. That's it. I want to hang out with that person first, okay? And you just said something there that I want everybody to hear, and yourself. When you have to change who you are working with an anti-avatar, and that's what you've been doing through no fault of your own, because you want to serve. And I was doing the same thing, and I found myself getting frustrated, or why aren't they listening, or like there's some kind of tension, if you ever want to, whatever words you want to use, right? But with a dream client, you don't get that. It's just they understand you in a way that your best friend understands you, and they're not good days. I'm not talking about everything is
Yeah.
roses and candies, right? But they get it. Like when I get into a frustrated mood, and it happens all the time, they don't sit there and say, "Listen, I'm not coaching with you. I can't handle you. I want my money back," or whatever. They're just like, "Yep, that's Joey. Yep, I can see that he's totally intense." Or like you said, I don't even have to be perfect. There's some things that I go, I just don't know what I want to say, or I don't know how to get this out, or this is frustrating me. Like I can just, like I was never a person who wore a mask, like pretending to be something else. However, when I look back into those years of 2016 to 19 or whatever, there was a small little veil, just a small veil, that it wasn't completely the whole thing. Not that I was holding anything back, but it was more about me getting off a call thinking, I don't know if I should have said that. Like, I don't know if I really, how I feel about that. Today, Lauren, oh my God, I say things, or I show things like the back end of my business or whatever. Like I just don't, it doesn't matter. You are my best friend. I trust you. This is how it goes. And I cannot begin to tell you how freeing that is. And I wish everybody this freedom of working with people that you can just show up and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. You're paying me. I totally forgot about that. Right? That's a dream
Yeah.
client. If you have to change who
So,
you are, you're working with the wrong people.
yeah. So I'm taking notes as you're speaking because it's sparking things that I want to share.
Good.
So,
Good.
three things. So, one is that sometimes we have to do what we have to do, right?
100%.
Sometimes, but like you're in a position and you just have to do what you have to do, and that's totally okay. I think it happens to all of us, and that's okay. But it's a situation. That's a means to an end to get you to wherever, right?
Right.
So we're not about that. The
No.
other thing um, is just because we can do something doesn't mean that's the thing we can do, you know. And so I think a lot of times, and I've done this, and I just did it, and that's why I'm like so excited, but also so irritated, is that, um, yeah, just be, it's just, it's there. I'm good at that. It's easy for me. I can serve doing that, but it's not, are you stopping to think, but how am I going to feel, right? Is it going to light me up? So just because you can doesn't mean you should. And again, sometimes you need to, we're not talking about that. But I've got a distinction between ideal client and dream client.
Okay.
And again, it's not that one is right and one is wrong and one is, it's just fact. When you look at who's targeting, and again, I'm going to use that word for, but I don't have a better one. Ideal clients.
Hmm.
I don't think I'm wrong, but I'd love to hear your thought. Ideal clients, I think, are great in masses where you're not interacting them. So your ideal client is fine. You're selling
Yeah.
programs, you're not interacting with them. So then your ideal client you want because there's lots of them probably, right?
Yes. Yes.
But when you're working either one-on-one or very closely with people, even if it's in small groups or whatever,
Yes.
um, I can see now the ideal client is it's going to drain you eventually. But I can see why, when I said earlier, like I've never heard that distinction before, is because it comes, and again, not right or wrong, no judgment, it comes from people who are marketing to the masses, who are selling, you know,
Yeah.
volume. And so in that context, it makes sense. But the problem is everyone's learning about ideal clients when in their life, that's not what they want. But they don't
Yeah.
know the distinction. Like I never thought of that distinction. I never thought of that distinction. And so a part of the point is that, in South Africa, we had a saying, and I'll say it in Afrikaans because it's cool, and then I'll say it in English, is that elke pot het sy deksel. And what it means is every pot has its lid. And so it's not that one's right or better than the other, but
Yes.
the problem is when you're being taught something from so many people and it's the same thing, and you don't have a Joey to show you another way, then you think that's the only way and you do it and you get frustrated or you're not successful and you don't understand why, because that's the
Yeah.
only thing you've known. I can't even tell you what, I'm like speechless at the distinction.
Thank you.
Um,
oh, sorry. Did you have more? Yeah. Like I love the way that you distinguished the differences, and you're absolutely right. The ideal client, when I teach it against, like I do in a versus piece, that the ideal client fits a job description, and basically it's like a resume. Here's who this course is for, program is for, whatever, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And you're absolutely right. When I'm doing like a jobby thing every single week, month, I always say, look, this is not going to be for everybody because it is a personal relationship. You are building relationships with people. And when you get that small group of people, it's uncanny how everybody in that group is like, wow, Lauren is exactly like me. And it's because of the curation. Like, so this is not just, this is my course. Did your payment go through? You're in. No, I do all of the work up front, and everybody thinks it's crazy. Like, you spend all this time talking with people, and again, here's another counterintuitive where I make people jump through hoops to get into my class, into my programs. People are like, why don't you just sell your thing? Because and here's another eye opener thingy. And I give this credit to Giovanni because he told me, he's my coach. He told me this years ago, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That sounds cool, but now that I've experienced it, again, let's use the word game changer. So here it is, that people come to you for the transformation. They come to you for the thing that you're promising, but then they stay for the community. Think about what I'm just saying. So because of that, it was like, that's a pretty cool thing. All right, that's cool. But then I realized that once I got my first, 20 people or whatever, and the community was there, I realized everything changed in my marketing. Well, not everything, but the front end became tougher because it was like, okay, how do I protect the 20 people now? Because they're so awesome. And anybody coming in, if they're the wrong thing, they're going to be a cancer to that group. So the dream client emerged even more. And yes, I've made mistakes. Nothing is perfect, but I'm very, very adamant about when you say, how do I get into Atlas? I'm like, I'm not going to give you a sales page. I'm not going to, give you my here's what you get thing. Here's how much it is. I want to talk to you
Oh,
first. Go ahead. Interject. You're off again. You're muted.
I've got a puppy here who's very unhappy. So if I keep looking away, I'm sorry.
That's
Um,
okay.
what you're saying now, like everything you're saying, ties into what we will speak about and are speaking about it, and that was about being pushy in selling. And
Right.
I think if how can I so let me say, if I didn't have my dream client in front of me, they would totally think I'm pushy and probably be a bitch,
Right.
right? But but the dream client is going to actually respect it and want to work with me. So I think so. I don't know why I'm saying this. So when I think of people who are afraid, oh, I don't want to be pushy, it's because I think there's a couple of reasons, and I might be taking this off on a tangent. So if I am, tell me.
Let's do it.
But you're not confident in your ability or what you're selling, and you don't have the right person in front of you, so you don't know how they're going to respond because you don't know, like that you don't know the story, right? So let's just say I was selling mindset coaching, which is that's what I do, right? And I just get these random people in front of me to speak to. I how can I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I guess it's like you can't put the wrong person in front of the right person and the wrong person in front of the right person. So when it comes to pushy, I think people will perceive you as pushy, or you'll feel pushy when you're not speaking to the right person, because you're either not being yourself or you are being yourself, and it's not a fit. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that's one. Yeah, for sure. That's one side of looking at it. The other perspective, from what I see every day on the pushy side of it, is that, and this is again, we talked about this on Academy today, which is they're attached to money. Period. Okay, so they're like, how do I get to the sale as fast as possible? And again, on today we talked about this, and both of two of the clients today said, the moment I let go of this thing has to replace my income. That was one, and the other one said, I don't really care about making 100 grand. Like the money thing doesn't matter to me. And they were so freeing, and they even said it. They go, now we feel like so free that this, like, I can concentrate more on the dream client, concentrate more on what do I want to serve and all that. And so that is the big thing. So once I let go of every clarity call needed to have a conversion, it was like, I no longer care. Like the clarity call for me is all about value, period. And I don't care what
Mm-hmm.
anybody's going to tell me. And they're gonna like, no, you need to have a CTA at the end. You need to have something. You need to have a call to action. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore because it didn't work for me and I don't want it. And so the people that now get on the call, just like those guys I just told you about, we've got on the call. It was just some clarity stuff. I stepped into like, this is not what I do, whatever. There's no call. And they're the ones who initiate well, how do I work with you? Like, what's the options that I have? Right. And that's why I don't know if we've said it before. I'm pretty sure we have, Lauren, where I said that when I switch into selling mode, and it's kind of funny that I actually say this on calls. I'll go, oh, okay, you want to know about my stuff? Okay, Lauren, let me put on my sales hat. That's me. That's just funny, quirky Joey. And because they're a potential dream client in front of me, they're like, yeah, go for it. Sell me, man. Like there's no awkwardness. Whereas before it was like ideal clients and I'd have to try to adapt to them to get into the conversation and to the conversion that never ever worked because they could feel that my energy was off and it just I wasn't being myself. I was reading scripts and all these other things. So that's the difference for me. And I know people listening to this, it may not work for you, but the ones who this is resonating with, I'm telling you, it will change your life when you focus on these are the people that I want. How do I go and find one? That's it. That's it. It's not about masses. It's about where's the one? I want to transform that one. And now let me duplicate that one.
Yes. And so another thing that, as you were saying, something like, being pushy and challenging, it's what's the difference? Sometimes it is when you're not, I think, when someone isn't willing to call it as it is, then that's why you're not getting where you want to get. Because at the end of the day, speak specific of the type of coaching I do, like I am challenging people, like I'm saying things that words are coming out of my mouth and they're going like, I can't believe you just said that, right? I go to the edge and beyond.
I love it.
That's how I coach. So, and that's how I would enroll people. Like, this is it. If you don't like this, then you're not going to enjoy working with me because this is what it is, right? So, but I'm willing. So, if you had to say, are you pushy? Are you saying, if you want to call it pushy, then call it. I am, but that's what gets results. And I'm comfortable with saying that.
Yeah.
And so, but the people who don't like the word pushy and they don't like the word sales and they're replacing those words with something else, it's
Yeah.
because you don't have confidence either in yourself or what you're selling or who you're selling to, because if you did, now you can be challenging or pushy, whatever you want to call it, in your personality. So you could have someone who's got a totally different personality to me and they go to the same edge, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I mean, I remember having a client who refused to use the word sales. I don't sell, and they came up with some arbitrary word, some soft arbitrary word. And I said to him, okay, you want to label it as that, that's fine. I'll use that word. But just so you know, that is a synonym for selling. So you want to give this fluffy word to it, that's fine. But don't kid yourself. And I think when someone's willing to call it what it is and own it, then everything changes as well. And it goes with what you're saying. When you've got your dream client and you know who you are and who you serve and whatever, then it's like a weight of the world is lifted off you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
across the board. And so I think that's where people really need to take stock of themselves, and they really need to sit down and go, why do I have this aversion to this word? What is it? What is it in me? Because that's where it is. And the thing is that most people will not do that reflection because they don't want to know the answer that they know is there. And so they avoid it and they walk on eggshells and they don't get where they want to get. You got to pick
Yeah.
a lane. You got to pick a lane.
Yeah. That's where the dream client comes in for me because, when you talk about being your personality, your character, Okay. I have a framework called the superpower matrix, and it's basically how you market. And one of that thing is the personality piece, right in the upper right quadrant. And that is, if anybody watching this is worried about how do I sell, how do I not be pushy, all that kind of stuff, it's pretty easy. If you go out into the social media world like we are right now, you know me. Like, am I any different than I am off camera or off live? No, right? And all my clients know this. Even everywhere I go, I am exactly the same. So that's the secret. It's if you're going to go and do something or write something or whatever, you write it as you're writing it to your best friend. You're talking to your best friend. I say things here like I tell you, even off camera. Nothing changes. I don't hold back. And so when people watch me, it's because everybody's binge watching or binge reading some way, shape, or form, and so they see me and they decide I like this guy, I don't like this guy. So if I'm not the same right now on this live as I am inside my private coaching, that's going to cause a challenge because people might let's say I'm pretending to be somebody now, and then they get inside my coaching like, whoa, where did this come from? So what I'm saying is just go out and don't be afraid to be yourself. Why would you want to do that? So then you don't have to get on calls and say, "Look, I'm sorry, but I tell it like it is, right? I'm not pointing fingers at you, just basically everybody, right? I don't have to tell anybody, get ready because this is the way it is, right? And I've even had sometimes, in my private coaching, I will say, "Okay, listen," like I preface it to soften what I'm going to say. And I've had my clients say, "Stop doing that. Stop apologizing up front and just tell me." Because they know who I am. And sometimes I get into that mode okay, what I'm going to say here is, and they're just like, shut up. Just tell me exactly what it is. I can take it. Right. And that makes me feel awesome. Even today, Lauren, we started the call and my client was like, so like, this is amazing, da 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 da. And I'm like listening and listening. And right away I saw a problem. Right away I saw a challenge, right? And so I let her finish and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. And we should celebrate this. On the other side, there's another perspective I need you to check out, right? So it's not like I want to wave pom poms because that's where they're going to get screwed up. You and I both know that we've been through the ringer before. We know this is not our first rodeo. So it's like, I'm not poo pooing on what you're saying. I'm not saying this is no good, but I need you to see outside of the picture frame. Okay. I just want to give you these perspectives. That conversation led into an epic conversation for half an hour between us all because of me challenging them in a loving, respectful way to say, that's fantastic. I just want you to see this other side. No right, no wrong, just like we're doing right now. Like what you say all the time. Hey, there's no right, there's no wrong. But, right. So, and the point is that we can just show up the way we are and we don't have to worry about pretending to be something that we are not. And to me, that is where the entire dream client piece comes in.
So I tell you a funny story, but it's not funny. I wish I could say what you say in that you've been who you are your whole life because I was a people pleaser for
Yeah.
most of my life, right?
Yeah.
And it's what it is. And now I've gone to the other end of the spectrum and I might have gone a bit far, but it's fine. But talking first comes to mind is that I was in another career, I was a nutritionist and a personal trainer, and I used to teach spinning classes.
Hmm.
And I would stand at the door, like when everyone was coming in and welcome them, and they'd see this friendly, sweet person outside, and then we'd get into the class, and I was just like this drill sergeant. And I remember getting so many comments to go, "Oh God, what happened to the person at the door?"
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just a visual of 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 what we're saying, right? And
Yeah.
I can literally see the spin room, I can see the studio, um, and again, that's why you do so well because you've been like this your whole life,
Yeah.
and
Like,
comfortable with it, right?
yeah. Yeah. That's the thing that is hard for me to identify or not empathize or really understand it. like I understand it conceptually, but because I've been like that in my entire life, going against the grain, driving against the traffic, it's like, just do this. And when I give the superpower matrix, and I understand that people have challenges with it, and they're like, well, what if people judge me and all these other kind of things? I'm like, who cares? And so I totally get that, but that's the secret, like right there. And as soon as they step into that, as soon as you start releasing all of that other stuff and knowing that, hey, somebody's going to judge you somehow, somebody's not going to like you, whatever it all, it's like, why would you care about people who don't respect you and don't like you anyway? In their opinion, it's all good. Like they're humans, let them stand in that line. I'm like, cool. This is the way that I'm going to show up in the world because I don't want to I don't want to have to think. I don't want to have to put energy into things other than helping my clients, other than solving problems, other than doing the things that I love. If I have to think about, oh, I got to put on a suit now and I got to go over here and I got to go over there, screw it. I'm just, it's too much energy for me personally. For me,
Yeah, it is. It's exhausting. And
you,
and so for me, I've had to get used to um it's and it's still th- being who I know I am, because for so long it was dialing myself down, right? And then and I can understand, and I understand why what happens is because it's happened to me um, in the past, is that you go, okay, this is it. I'm going to be who I am, and you are, and then you get shot down, then you get criticized, and then there's that. It's hard to change anyway, right? From no matter, change is hard.
yeah,
But that's why what you're saying is so critical, because if you're around the right people who you know you are to be, it's not hard, because we're all the same. Like we're the same, we're the same color M&M. There's no problem. But when you trying to be yourself and you're around people who are not like that, then of course it's going to be hard. And I put myself through that for so many years,
yeah,
and it is exhausting. It is. And so
yeah,
I guess it keeps coming back to this genius of yours, and that is dream client, and I think it is dream friend, right?
yeah. It's
Dream.
the best friend who pays you.
It's like it's across the board. And I love what you said in that would this be someone you'd hang out with? And I know who I've worked with, and there's no chance I'm hanging out with. And I know who I'm working with now, and I'll hang out with you all day long. But again, it also depends on what your goal is, right? And what you're trying to do. I'm like you. I want to build relationships. I want to create connections. I so I might never have. I probably will never have the income of people who are selling masses online, and that's okay, because I would hate what it took to do that.
That's right.
And so I'm also very honest with myself. If you want this, the relationships, the connection, then you can't have that. Or if you're going to do that and you want that outcome, then you're going to be miserable. And so I'm choosing less for fulfillment and congruence. I also believe that over the long term, it won't be less. It won't. Or it will be more than I could ever imagine or need. And so it's just, I think, so the other thing it comes down to, and this is something I've had to work on because I have been a people pleaser, is you have to be honest with yourself,
Right.
right? I don't like doing that. I'm not good. Everyone else is doing that. And so I feel like I should. But at some point I have to go, I have to find a different way. But you have to be honest with yourself. And you can't judge, or if you're going to judge yourself, then you may as well not do it, because then you're just going to feel bad about yourself and you're not going to probably do anything. So to reflect and see a truth and not judge yourself also it takes courage, it takes a willingness to grow. And we know most people won't go there.
Right.
And so then they go, oh, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be, because I don't know. They just, I don't know.
There's a whole bunch of stuff
It's
in here,
just,
Lauren, because you're right about being honest with yourself. And you know, when I still do a lot of this reflection, and I'm doing it now. I'm doing like, what do I truly, truly want in terms of a business? And the more you're in touch with yourself, the easier it becomes to identify the model that you want to build and all these other things. So I don't want a massive business. I don't want a multi-million dollar business. I don't want scale. I don't want a huge team, because I'm a simplifier. I'm a very simple person. Same thing day in, day out. People might think it's boring, but it's for me it's routine. This is exactly how it all works. And when I look at simplification for me for the business, it's like, well, maybe 100 people a year that I really want to bring into my world. That's it. Maybe just even 50 people. And then you work around, well, what do I really need to really make an impact in the world? And so that for me, it's not about millions of dollars. It might be $1 million business, but if I'm making $500,000 income personally, and I simplify the business, and it maybe is a $750,000 revenue business because it operates at, 80% profit or whatever the math is, I'm happy. Like, honestly, if you give me, if you, I don't need millions and millions of dollars, because it's just adding complexity to the business. Remember that the more you scale, the more complex you bring, and complexity is like a kryptonite for me. It cripples me, right? So when I look at that and it violates my DNA, that's the whole thing, which comes down to the dream client. So when a client comes in and says, "Here's $25,000, I want to scale what I've got working to $1 million per year," it freaks me out. Not because I'm maybe can't do it, but it's more like, "Holy crap! I got to add all this complexity in order to make that happen," and it violates who I am. So I'm just putting myself out there for the solopreneurs, for the simplifiers out there that says, I don't need any of that crap. I don't want all these funnels. I don't want all this kind of stuff. That's why I talk about it every day, because that's who I am. And I promise you, everybody listening to this, I promise you, there is a dream client like your best friend who is out there looking for you. I promise you that. I just can't tell you how long it's going to take for them to cut through the fog and find you. But the more you shout from the rooftops about who you are, they will hear through the fog, because you found your best friend. Imagine what your life would be like if you could replicate people who are like your best friend and their clients. Imagine how that feels. How do you feel when you are with your best friend? When you are down in the dumps and you call your best friend and they pull you out, like, how do you feel? Right? Like, imagine all of those feelings when you go to work. That's my life, Lauren, every day.
it shows. It's palpable.
Thank you.
Um, so again, a piece of the puzzle clicked in for me, like when,
I'm happy.
and I just can't keep going back to that. So, and I can see, and I want to share it because I can see how it's going to change something immediately for me. So, I, who I'm working with is, so my, the, what it, what I've said to myself, which is I love that environment. It's the environment that I love, right? And I could be there all day, every day. But
Yes.
then what clicked in, so two things. So then what clicked in, it's the environment, but it's the personality of the people that are like mine, right? So that's it. But the third piece of that, which is going to change everything, is I'm now going to reach out not with that personality, because if I dial it back and they're the right person, then we're not going to resonate. And if
That's
I
right.
don't dial and they don't like it, it's the wrong person as well. So what's the point in not doing it? But the point is I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and I have a different perspective, a different mindset. Um, I'm so
Amazing.
happy. I feel like,
Wow.
oh my, when you go to the chiropractor and it just all like clicks in, it
Yes.
was such a peace. And maybe
Yeah.
I'm like the party and everyone knows this already, but my gosh, this was this was amazing.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you. Now you
and
see why I've been doing the Dream Client workshop with Kajabi for over 3 years. Like it's this happens every single month. That 20% of that audience, it just wow, breakthrough. And I'm so happy because I can just change people's perspective of building a business based on what you've been seeing in the standard for so long. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but for people like us, it is wrong. It's not what we want. It's like, I don't want to have to change who I am. I hear this all the time. I don't want to sell my soul and all these things. And I'm like, well, why not? Why just show up as you are? And that's the only challenge that I really have when people come and work with me. And that's totally fine. But I get them because they get me, and I know that I can work with them to bring them out of their shell, right? Like what happened today, even with one client. She has been through already. Okay, so just to give the context of this, and anybody listening to this, it's super important because the first thing is we don't know what is broken until we focus. That's the biggest thing. So if most people are not focused, when they hit a wall, they're like, "Oh, I'll come back to this," and they go do something else. But if you're focused on one thing and one thing only, you will find what the broken piece is. So in her case, it was doing the cohorts with the groups and working with a certain set of dream clients that we formed the first time. And then in this third round, she's like, I don't know, like I'm just losing energy. I'm losing, like, they're not bad people. Again, this is not a judgment against humans. It's just about, can I show up every day with this group of people, the dream client, for the next 25 years of my life and just love every minute of it? If you can't say yes to that question, you're just working with the wrong people. And that's totally cool. And that's what she found out. So it's like it's shifting, it's carving off the edge, right? So they were in this journey and you're focusing on that part of the journey, but that's draining you, but you can help them in the next part. And that's maybe where you should zero in on. And that, she almost cried on the call. Like, this is what I really want to do. This is where I want to live. I'm like, now you've known, but you wouldn't have known. And this is what I want everybody to hear. You wouldn't have known had you not gone through the first part of it, right? Thinking that this is the dream client and that's cool. That was not a waste. It's not sunk costs. You're not, you're not losing. That brought you to this next phase, which is, to your point, that you haven't been who you are for the rest of your people pleaser and all that, but that brought you here, right?
yes,
It
and
brought you
even
here.
last year, I can look at it and go, oh my gosh, what a waste of a year, whatever. But no, I wouldn't. I had to go through this. Sometimes you have to. It's more important to know what you don't want,
Yes, it is.
because then you know what you do want. But I have a question for you, and I think I know the answer, but I'd love to hear your perspective. So, would you agree that if you, I know, I'm not even going to ask it because I know the answer.
No, ask, because maybe someone else wants another question.
Well, I guess again, it's what you want differently. Like, if you're selling, say, courses and stuff online, and you like,
Yeah,
thousand whatever, then obviously those are ideal clients, not dream clients, right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, if your goal is to put a course up and sell it and kind of forget it, or show up on a coaching call and answer some questions in a webinar format and stuff, then yeah, I would still, look at the ideal client. And even people don't even do that. They just want to sell a course, right? So yes, the ideal client is the least or the minimum viable thing. Like, that's the thing.
And you don't have to, if you're doing the courses, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. If you're doing the courses and selling products, in a way, it doesn't matter because you're not interacting with those people. You don't even know who
Yeah,
they are, so whatever. So, what I was thinking about, and I know we've spoken about this in the past because I had, it was from an offer I had earlier this year, is, so as you're talking, I'm thinking about, would I love the money of what some of these people are making with it, right? Couple 100,000, whatever, right? Like, yes, I would love the money. And I would feel so unfulfilled because, like, now what I do, right? For me, I want to see the transformation, I want to see the impact. And so it wouldn't work. Like, I wouldn't be happy. Yes, it would be nice, but I would feel just empty. And so, and I was made to feel so bad about that for so long. And it affected me in a lot of the choices and decisions that I made. And it just keeps coming back to, you got to be around the right people. And
Yeah.
and if you're not, it's hard to step away, but it will chip away at you. And it still doesn't take away from the fact that sometimes we have to do what we have to do. But you know that this is just, it's temporary, it's a means to an end kind of thing. You know that. And so there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So it's like, whatever. But got to pick a lane, got to pick a
Yeah,
person.
sometimes you don't know that you have to go through it, and you go through it, and then you find out, like, so you don't know what a crappy situation is or what a good situation is until you've been through a crappy one, right? You don't know what a crappy coach is until you've hired one. And that's the difference. So we don't know what's good. That's why you remember the story I told you about the real estate. The guy was like, I've never had a bad tenant in my life and blah, 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 10 years. And I'm like, that's not good. I don't want to invest with you until you've been through the stuff and can navigate through the problems, right? I'm like, that's not good. So when people come to me, they've already been through many, if not many, crappy coaches, crappy situations. And it's unfortunate that people are coming to me that I have to fix, right? Like, let's fix this. But that again is a dream client. It's not about somebody who comes to me and says, yeah, this course didn't work or that coach was bad or whatever. I need to make more sales, whatever. Like, yeah, I could help you, but that still does not qualify them to work with me. It's more about, tell me more about what you want. Tell me more about your life. Tell me more about this, right? And so they self identify that they're not the right fit. And it's like, I really can't help you because, right, all they want to do is catch up and get those sunk costs back in. And, sometimes people come to me and say, well, I've been working with coaches for 5 years, 10 years, and nothing's worked. And then, like, let's say they're in a year with me and they're like, this has been 11 years now. Well, no, it hasn't. It's been 1 year. Okay. The 10 years got you to me. That's it. Like, so, like, I understand that, but, and if somebody focuses on that, they're a victim to me. There's nothing wrong with talking about it. But if they're like, well, it's been 11 years. No, it hasn't. Right? That was your, like, I love life tuition. That's part of your life tuition to get you here. Just like you just talked about your own life tuition and everything else. Everybody has life tuition. So it's important that we understand that when we're bringing people into our world, who exactly we are willing and able to help by not changing who we are. And like you said, Lauren, it's hard because you will be judged. And the more you're judged or frowned upon, I believe that's a great thing because you are disrupting what the norm is for everybody else. Remember the mediocrity line I drew for you a couple of weeks ago? That's what you're doing. And people don't like it. They're like, that doesn't sound right to me. It's a going against everything that I've been taught or what I feel or what I believe and all that. And I got all that when I started doing this dream client and unfunnel and simplicity, 6 years ago, focusing on the people that you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? No funnels and all these things. Now everybody's jumping on board. Why? Am I the originator? No, but I'm the guy who stood out like 6 years ago and said, this is what I believe and this is where I'm going. Take it or leave
Yeah.
it, right? And dream clients was a big thing.
So I was just having this conversation literally just before I got on here. So I'll say this here, I've said it to someone, I'm so disillusioned with the coaching industry. And disillusioned doesn't come close to the word I want to use, but out of respect, I won't use it here. And here's the thing, is that too many coaches, and again, I'm not perfect, I'm not the best, whatever, coach, but I mean, I can do it. I do a
Yeah,
good job.
you have clout, so just say
Yeah.
it.
So they think they're better than they are. And there's ego. And but here's the thing, and I literally just said this half an hour to someone. Part of the problem is they're not willing to invest in themselves to grow, right? And there's no excuse for that. None. And again, there's no excuse for this either, but it's a problem, is they working with people or they're practicing with people who are at the same skill level as them. So then,
Mm-hmm.
oh, work with the same people. Oh, you're great. Oh, you're great. And we're both great at a grade one, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if you invest in yourself, as you said, if you don't see what the alternative is, you've got no benchmark. So as you said, if you haven't failed, you don't appreciate or you can't see what you do want. But so it's the same thing with building your skills, or you've got to have the courage to be the less wise one or the less skilled one in the room. And again, it blows me away that most coaches wouldn't even contemplate putting themselves in that position. Probably hasn't even crossed their mind. I can't respect that. And
That's right.
so they
Th-
think that's why they probably think I'm pushy. Well, look where you are and look where I am when it comes to skill of coaching. Just looking at that. It's just, and I guess if we had to put it into one word, it's integrity. Or maybe that's not the right word. It's congruence, right?
yeah,
And
what you just said is super important, Lauren, because everything you just said is marketing to me. Like, if you went out and did a video or you just did a post or something and said, this is what I feel about the industry, about this, and you're not dissing anybody directly or something, but you're telling a story about how you feel about that, and that shows your character. And that's very difficult to do because, especially from where you come from. And it's just that again, you're marketing by being who you are. That's just it. Do you know Sally Hogshead? You're on mute. You're on mute.
sorry, I don't know her, but I know you've told me about her before.
Okay, so she is one of my dear friends, and I highly recommend. You've recommended me a few books. I highly recommend you go and buy Fascinate. And anybody listening to this, go buy the book Fascinate, because not only will it change your life, but it will also, it's kind of a Bible where you will discover your brands, like what you are. Are you a power brand? Are you forgive me, Sally, I forget all of it. There's 7 fascinating things, but I'm a power brand. Okay. I know that. It's like, I'm coming at you with power, with like, this is what I believe. This is it. Like, that's all. Once you identify that and you step into it, your world changes. And so I highly recommend you do that. I highly recommend you go to her site, fascinate.com. I think it is. There's a free thing that you can figure out really what kind of a brand you are right away. And then step into that. So everything that I do is based around that power position, which is not pushy. It's just like, no, this is how I show up in the world. And I don't know where I was going with this and why there was another point to this, but the main point I wanted to get out was just I do this with all my clients. I go, even though I love Sally, she's a good friend of mine. I want more book sales, and not that she needs it, but it's kind of one of those staple things that at least all of my clients need to understand. This is how you identify the dream client and all these other things, the area that you need to step into. Oh yeah, this is what I was pointing to you. Because if once you are stepping into that trait of the position of your company and what you are, then what you just said is basically your message all the time. Right. So you're going out and saying, this is what I stand for when it comes to coaching. This is what I can't stand. This is what it is. And you'll get a lot of people who just pull away from me, because the idea, if you've never heard this before, I love saying this, I say it all the time. The goal of marketing is to repel 85% of the people. It's not to attract. It's to say things that push 85% of the people away so that the 15 or 10% can actually see you. That's the goal. But you're not saying it in a way that's, like you said, grandiose. Look at me. You listen to
Mm-hmm.
me because I am the king, right? No, it's like, this is what I believe. This is what I stand for. And everybody else is going to go, whoa, I don't agree with that. That's fine. Please move out of the way so the other people can actually see me.
And from the people that I know and whatever, is the reason they don't do that is because of a scarcity mindset,
Yeah.
right? So I, if I like do that, then I am going to, if I push all these people out, upset all these people, there's going to be no one for me to work with. But I love again, I love how you're positioning it. Get the fog out of the way so the people looking for you can find you. And again, like it's just
Lauren,
again, I love the way you distinguish that, because again, I think people don't look at it like that, or they don't understand. You're so good at like the meta, like you the knowledge, but then how you say it, it's just I
thank you. We'll finish up with this. I want you to think about this, and everybody listening, is that I realized that, at least, again, we're talking about dream clients who are usually in the premium level, because we only want a few in relationships and all that. So we're not talking about masses and ideal. So you're absolutely right. Just think about this. The premium client, or someone who's willing to pay a premium for you, they need the relationship. Would you agree with that? Like,
hundred
you
yeah,
can't,
hundred
right? So,
percent.
okay, so I can't give you $10,000 and go, yeah, just let me watch your course and thank you very much. No. So we agree on that level. If you agree with that, and anybody listening, if you know that to be true, then what I'm saying and what I realized is that your dream clients are like they're on the sidelines. They have binoculars. They're on the sidelines watching you. And they're watching you and you don't know it. So your scarcity mindset, I totally get it, because you're like, well, where are these people? Nobody's responding, nobody's clicking, nobody's engaging with my posts and all that kind of stuff. But believe me, that dream client is watching. Just like you are going now and you're ready to spend $25,000. Are you going to actually just go and just give a coach? No, you're going to go and watch the videos. You're going to see what you're going to hang around. You're going to be in the background of the classroom a little bit, right? You need to get warmed up. And nobody knows you're doing that. Nobody knows what's going on in your mind. So you said the word congruency, which is absolutely critical, because if I change my message, I change what I believe. Not that you can't change a little bit and adapt, but the main message is always there. Simplicity, dream clients, you know, uh, focus of a smaller business, and these things, that freedom, all that kind of stuff. Then people would just be like, he's just like everybody else, because dream clients are watching me. Just like I told you that those people who just came to me last week, they were watching me. I had no idea who these people were. And if you look at the ROI of the transaction, I could sit there and boast and say, got a client, paid me $5,000, took me 24 hours, right? I could boast that because that's how people sell that thing, but that's not what happened. Who knows how long they were watching? But the transaction, once they decided I'm pre-sold and I want to work with Joey, transaction was easy. There was no selling involved. And there's no pushiness, which is the conversation or the topic of what we're talking about today.
Yes,
So
and most people
walk away with
are,
that.
oh, it's so easy for him. It is now because he put in the work, right? And that's what people, they just see the end result and they don't stop to think, well, what did it take to get there, right? And so, I have a term, when you were saying like in terms of the fog, right? And they can't find you. It's if you're going to be vanilla, then then you're going to get mediocre results, right? Because you have to stand out somehow.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I know
It's
it's hard.
funny.
I know it's hard if you haven't done that your whole life. And if you want if you want something to be different, then you have to do something different. And I've said this before on your show as well, is everything is hard and uncomfortable. Everything. But, and I'll use the example of health. It is hard to be healthy. You have to exercise, you have to eat right, you have to, or it's hard. And it's hard to be sick. So which hard do you want? So yes, it might it hard initially if you've been like me, a people pleaser. It actually wasn't so hard because the time I got there, it was like a straw that broke the camel's back. But yes, but it's not hard being, I mean, it's being hard being a people pleaser as well.
It is. Yeah.
So I think that's it, you know, just ask yourself, which hard do I want? The
Right.
hard that's going to keep me where I am, or the hard that at least has the potential to take me where I want?
I love that.
That's
This has been an amazing conversation. I know we can go on and on and on and on about this. And as you can
what
tell, I love talking about it.
I feel like I need to pay you, I don't know how much for this.
You pay me just by being here so I can just talk things out with an amazing colleague and friend.
Oh, love our show. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you. And thank you all for watching today. If you're watching us live, or now at this point, the replay, let us know by hashtag replay. I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Lauren. Appreciate everyone listening. We've been here for, I don't know how long, since the 2016s or something like that. So it's been a little while. We'll see you again next Tuesday for another heart-centered marketing show. Take care, everybody.
Ciao.